Aubrey, how did I meet you? I met you through Brian Packin.
Yeah, Pac-Man.
Yeah,
I was just in
Pac-Man.
New York. You were in Vegas, though.
I was in Vegas with him.
Yeah.
We were at the
Yeah.
Olympia, and we were in this our podcast here called Reps. We went to the Olympia and we interviewed about 20 people.
Yep.
Which was phenomenal. Like some of the biggest fitness stars, freaks, call it what you want. Like
Yeah.
we interviewed the guy who broke the bench press record. I think he benched like 740.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I just remember like getting lost looking at him. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I just
He's
wanna
one of the
say
biggest
something.
human beings I've ever seen. This guy had to
Kind.
weigh 440 pounds. And,
Super
and
nice.
We turned to him. I'm like, how did this because he hit 742, and I said, how did it feel? And he goes, you know when a weight feels really heavy? And I said, yeah. And he goes, it didn't. I started laughing.
Dude.
So I met him through my buddy Brian Packin, who is a really good collegiate ball player. Has known Aubrey for years. Has opened a bunch of lounges in the city. He's doing really well. And we hit it off, and we just kind of got on some fitness talks. And
when was that? When did you meet?
probably Brian and I.
No.
Aubrey,
you and
probably
Aubrey.
what, the last year or so, right? At least.
Yeah, yeah, it was about probably last year. I think I came to New York last year, and we did a Yankees game, and I was talking to Carrie, his wife, and talking about wanting to get in like really good shape. She said, oh, we have a great friend here named Dod Saladino, and he trains all the superhero guys. I'm like, holy shit, okay. So that's how we got in contact.
It was cool. So we became really friendly, and he's had. I always heard of his name, so it was fun for me to be able to meet him because I'm a big, as you know, a big baseball guy, and followed pretty much all of his career, and he's got a great story with the World Series. And you won two World Series in the last like 3 years of your career, right? Can you talk about that first? So
Yeah,
talk about
I won 2 World Series last 3 years, 2010 through 2012. 2012 was one of those years where I really wasn't playing much, and it was kind of I was on the retirement side of it. I had a younger player take my job, and I just felt like it was time to walk away. You know, I had some issues mentally with anxiety and depression, and it just felt like it was the right time for me. And I walked away in Detroit, swept the Tigers, and hasta luego, bye bye. It's kind of funny. We can talk about that. Are we doing this right now? Are we started?
Yeah, man.
we're on, man.
Yeah.
We're on.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how this is working.
We're like really relaxed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
pretty easy.
Yeah. So 2010 and 2012 were completely different experiences for me. In 2010, I was 7th in the league in MVP voting for the National League. I hit 26 homers, 90-something RBIs, hit 290 for the Giants, hitting in the middle of the lineup. And, I was kind of a leader in the clubhouse and on the field and had that goofy personality, kept the clubhouse loose. And then in 2012, just went batshit crazy, with anxiety, depression, stuff like that. I was actually a ghost that year, man. I went through a 60-day deal with, massive anxiety problems, taking Xanax like they're Skittles. And, I basically was just a playoff. I was wondering if I was going to make the playoff roster in 2012. And as a courtesy, Bruce Bochy put me on, I think. And I think I had 1 or 2 at-bats in the playoffs, and that was it, man. And I was like, you know what? It's time to go. I was 36 years old, maybe 37, and my kids were 4 and 2 and ready to ride off into the sunset, thinking that was going to cure the anxiety. But it kind of got worse in the transition phase. You hear a lot of athletes talk about how hard it is to transition out of professional sports. And I was no different, man. And very few people get out of pro sports and have an easy transition. And it was really tough for me.
Were you suffering from anxiety and depression in 2010 as well?
No, 2010. Well, it's an interesting. So I got an interesting story. So pretty much my entire career up till 2009, I played the game clean, right? And then in 2009, I was in Chicago, and I was sitting down in this black leather chair in White Sox field, and I had a massive hangover that day. We had a 1 o'clock day game, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to play baseball today. And it's literally an hour before the game. I'm still in my clothes from the night before. And I was a train wreck at this time. Tired of getting my ass kicked from the American League East all those years. And I was with the Orioles at the time. And prior to the Orioles, I was with the Tampa Bay Rays for 6 years. So I was in the basement of the American League East for 9 straight years. So losing was getting to me. I was getting tired of baseball. And, there I was hungover at, noon for an hour for a day game in Chicago. And a teammate walks in and he goes, hey, man, you look like you're struggling. I'm like, yeah, man, you could say that. He goes, I got something that can cure you. I'm like, really, what do you got? He goes, well, have you been popped for a drug test before? And I go, no, because in Major League Baseball, you get a freebie, right? If you get caught, you get a slap on the wrist, whatever. I'm like, what the hell? I've never been caught for a drug test. I'll give it a shot. And I asked him what it was. He said, it's Adderall. I'm like, all right, I've heard about it. I mean, it can't be that bad. And So he comes in here, he gives me this little 20 milligram extended release Adderall. It felt like a feather, like this ain't gonna do shit, right? Popped it. And if you guys have seen Limitless with Bradley Cooper, right? 20 minutes later, that's what it felt like as he's walking up those stairs, the lights are turning on, you could hear everything, the smells, every sense in my body was like euphoric. I jumped out of that lazy boy, ran to my teammates' locker room, gave him a big hug. It's like, this is the best shit I've ever taken in my life. Hit the field, running, and for 3 straight years, I took Adderall every day. And it increased more and more as I went on because you're losing the effect as you take, you have to build up that tolerance, you get more and more and more. And what I found with that drug is, yes, it's a super mental thing for you. It makes you feel invincible mentally, but you can't turn it off. I found myself impossible to sleep at nighttime unless I pounded like 12 beers, just essentially passed out. And so I did that basically for 3 years. And then in 2012, I got sober, and that was my last year in the big leagues. And I couldn't handle playing baseball without it. I think that's when the anxiety and the depression started, because I was getting off the Adderall and I'm playing in front of 40,000 people. Yeah. Now all of a sudden the pressure's on you, and now you're feeling all that pressure that I was masking before with the Adderall.
Man, that's got to feel weird for your almost your whole career that you're going out there doing your job, and I'm assuming enjoying it, and then you start to kind of feel that way, just feel all that pressure and feel like people are staring. That must have been really shitty.
Well, it's funny. I mean, when I look back at it now, I never truly, I think, played the game in my right mind. Even before the Adderall, I mean, I numb myself almost nightly with booze. Mm-hmm. So, and that was just a thing when I came up. That was the time, late 90s, early 2000s, all the way through the 2000s, a lot of old school players, and that was the game when I came up. You're going to play the game, you're going to have a 12-pack laying by your locker after the game, and that's what everybody did. And so that's kind of what I grew up into. The game today has changed. A lot of guys are into basically year-round health, Don, as you know. Yeah. These guys are working out. There is no off-season for these guys. And so they take extremely good care of themselves, and the drug testing now is way better than it ever has been. So I think they've really done a good job in Major League Baseball getting rid of most of the drugs. A lot of guys are going to get popped now. It's such a strong drug test.
So you think the league's a lot cleaner?
I mean, you look at the guys playing now. You look at a guy like Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger. These guys are 6'2", soaking wet. They're 195, and
they're what A-Rod looked like when he came into the league. It was just such a different element. But now what's kind of ironic about it is, did you watch the home run derby this year?
I did, a little bit.
Well, a couple of guys who aren't big guys, they're hitting the ball 450, 460 feet, and the game well. It's like, to do that off of that speed pitching, for me, I was like, all right, well, is the ball juiced now? Are they juicing something different right now? And what was your opinion on that? I'm just curious, personally.
Well, I mean, so when I came up, you hit 30 home runs. That's a big deal.
It's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous. You are a top 10 player in baseball if you hit 30 home runs.
Ridiculous.
If you look on the stats now, the league leaders, 75, 80 guys have 30 home runs now. And to me, that's a telltale sign something's going on. And I've spoke to multiple guys that I've played with over the years who are still in coaching in the major leagues. They're still up in the big leagues doing a lot of those guys on the Tampa Bay Rays. I got like 4 or 5 coaches on the Tampa Bay Rays that I've played with. And I've asked them too, man, what is these balls? Is this these balls wound tighter like they say they are? They go, Aubrey, not only are they wound tighter, but the seams are lower. So you're essentially hitting a golf ball now is what these guys are saying. So, and it's making the pitchers throw harder because there's less resistance. But at the same time, all you got to do is tap it out there, and that ball's going to go. I mean, you've hit a golf ball with an aluminum bat or a wooden bat. It jumps, right? I mean, I've seen 15, 20 guys this year hit a home run out in front on their back leg, knee on the ground.
I saw Todd Frazier do it this week. He literally was off his front foot. And when he was coming around the bases, he was actually laughing.
Right,
he was laughing, and he was just like, I mean, it was so ridiculous. The ball got out, and I was like, I never really understood. I mean, whether you're a baseball fan or not, like, you play in a hockey arena, it's the same size rink. Right. You play in a football field, the dimensions are the exact same.
Yeah.
Baseball is one of the only sports besides golf where, outfield walls are a little bit different. 60 feet, 6 inches from home to first, 90 feet from home to the pitcher's mound, 90 feet from home to first. But, right field, Pesky's pole. You got Yankee Stadium right field. You have the Green Monster. All these dimensions are changing. The Colorado Rockies, suddenly the air's thinner. And you really do have an advantage at certain parks. I wish there was a way they could almost kind of systemize that a little bit more to where it was a level playing field.
It's funny you said that, Don, because I say that all the time. And as a guy like yourself who's played the game, right, you get it. Right? Yeah. And I think only the people that have played the game understand this. I've said this multiple times to some of the reporters in San Francisco when I played there. As you know, in San Francisco, it's 421 feet to right center with a 40-foot wall, right? And so as a left-handed hitter, you're like, okay, I play 81 games here a year, right? That year I hit 26, and that year I had 26 in 2010. I could hit 40 if I was playing.
40,
yeah. I mean, at Yankee Stadium, it's a joke. So if you're going to pay on stats, and these multi-million-dollar contracts, make every field the same.
I just didn't know if you think that the officials for Major League Baseball want more home runs because it's more excitement. It's like it brings fans in, even though if I were you, I'd be pissed off. Like you had to work harder to hit home runs, and now they're just giving them away almost.
Yeah, it's almost like I tell my friends this all the time. I feel like I was 10 years too early to the party. You know what I mean? It seems like not only the home runs that they're hitting now, but the money they're shelling out. Like I remember my first year coming to the big leagues, one of the biggest deals was Greg Vaughn for the Rays that I was playing. He signed a 4-year, $40 million. That was huge, life-changing money then. Now that's like a third-year player kind of money. You know what I mean? It's just these $300 million contracts. It's just exploded in the last 10 years. And I got to be honest with you. I think fans, they don't give a shit about the no-hitter or the 1-0 games. They want to see long ball. Like that commercial back in the 90s, I think it was, Don. It was the chicks dig the lawn ball.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Nobody's coming to a baseball game to watch a pitcher's duel. They want to see bombs, and bombs are sexy.
Let's dive into the fitness portion of it for a second. There was a movie that came out probably in the early to mid 90s, right when that steroid era we started to kind of hit it, and I think it was called Super Sluggers, and it basically interviewed, I don't know if you ever remember it, but it interviewed like the biggest hitters in baseball. And I saw an old clip of it the other day, and I could not believe how massive these guys were. You had Canseco, Piazza, McGuire. It's sad in a way because you have that time frame in the 90s where it's just like one big asterisk next to it. And when you go to guys' baseball cards, you look, and I still never want to take away from their ability, but suddenly it's like that 3-4 year span. You know what I'm talking about? 42 home runs, 47 home runs. You're like, oh, that was it right there. It's that shaded in area. It is such a pure game, and it is something that it's a game that I love and I respect, and you never want to see it tarnished. All the stuff that happened with Bud Selig was the commissioner at the time. Do you think he approached it incorrectly? Do you think he kind of dove into it and turned over too many stones from the past? When it came to who was taking what, do you think he should have focused more on the future and more on prevention?
What I think Bud Selig did wrong was, so when we almost lost baseball to the strike in '94, right? A lot of fans were turned off. People were running away from baseball, and the attendance was way down. And I think what happened was you got the guys like Canseco, McGuire, Sammy Sosa, all these guys all of a sudden start juicing really heavily, start hitting like 60, 70 home runs. The home runs brought people back. The fans came back in droves, and Bud Selig was reveling in the newfound attendance. Like he had brought baseball back from the grave, and I think Bud Selig took a lot of credit for that. What I found kind of hypocritical on his end was whenever now these guys start getting busted for steroids, and the fans are starting to like really come about and trying to catch these guys that are juicing up. Now all of a sudden he starts turning on these guys that brought baseball back. So when all these guys were juicing and hitting homers, he was all for it. But whenever it was time for him to make a move, when everybody's putting pressure on him, then he buried these guys. And so you can't have your cake and eat it too. And so that's where I saw a little bit of hypocrisy with Bud Selig.
Did you feel pressure to jump in on the steroid use too? Because if you're seeing people get bigger and stronger and blasting home runs, and you want to stay competitive, like did you ever really wanted, or dabble or consider it?
It's a great question.
Absolutely, and I did. I did it in 2004. I came off a 3-11 season with the Rays, hit 34 bombs, had 111 ribbies. I led the team and everything. And I'm seeing these guys hit 50. I'm like, shit, man. Okay, these guys are juiced up. Maybe if I juice up, I'll hit 50 next year. So I went in the off season. I did a cycle. I did like a 6-week cycle. That's really it. But I worked my ass off, and And
how did it feel?
I felt every day I woke up, I felt energized, right? I didn't necessarily feel like I gained a lot of weight. It was a 6-week cycle, right? I didn't just juice myself,
right,
all year long. So, I don't think I gave it enough time to get really monstrous, but I felt through that process, my daily workouts were through the roof. My recovery was amazing. I was able to bounce back daily and really lift hard. But the ironic part was that next year, I think I only hit, 260 with 21 homers. And, I struck out a lot. I kind of had a down year. So I'm like, okay. So I just kind of took it as a bad omen and never did it again.
What percentage of the league do you think, and I know we're not asking you to disclose certain names, but what percentage of the league at that time do you think was on it? And I've heard some high numbers there, like 80%, 70%.
Oh, man. I don't know if it's consistently on it. I'd say consistently on it.
No, back then, when you were taking.
Back then, probably consistently, guys were on it all the time, pretty much year round. I would say probably around 40%.
Okay, what about just doing what you did, like just touching it once?
Guys that dabbled in it, like me, probably 80%.
Wow.
Yeah, just wanted to give it a whirl and see what it does. I know a lot of guys that did in the off season, and they felt guilty like I did, and just felt like they were cheating themselves and worried about their potential future health and stuff like that. And some guys just don't give a shit. They're like, you know what? I have my one chance to make this money here. I'm not all that talented, but if I got bigger and stronger and faster, I can make life-changing money and set my family up for the rest of their life. And you don't really know what this stuff's going to do to you in the future.
Do you feel, I have a note here from one of our editors that helped with some research that you think you're a better athlete now than when you retired. Is that true? And why is that?
I really do. I wish I would have taken better care of myself when I played, But it's also like the Mickey Mantle syndrome. I look back at my life and I go, you know what? What if I would have taken good care of myself? I was completely sober the entire time, and then I might have thought too much, right? I don't know. And I just enjoyed the lifestyle of baseball coming up as a young man. I enjoyed the party scene, the all the bars, and being that kind of guy that was living on the edge. And I kind of got off on that, right? And it gave me confidence on the field for whatever reason. And I feel like if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have that edge. But having said that, I think if I had a better mental frame back then, a little bit more confidence in myself, and I didn't drink, I didn't do all that stuff, I probably could have been a 300-plus homer guy, Hall of Fame type dude, 300 career average, over 1,000 ribs. I probably could have been a lot better.
When you were writing Baseball Junkie, your book, was there certain parts or certain stories, that you didn't remember and maybe had to gloss over, or that were really difficult and tough for you to relive?
Yeah, 1,000%. When you're on Adderall, you lie so much that you almost forget your own lies, and you say it so many times that your lies, you believe it's the truth, right? And so as you're writing some of this stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, did that really happen, or did I lie about that so often that in my mind it became truth? I had to go back and ask teammates, did I really do that? Like, no, what the hell are you talking about? And so, it's one of those things where you just, especially in my marriage, I got 3 years there where I was a complete degenerate, in my marriage. I didn't, come home, even at home 4 a.m, and, I wrote about sneaking around on my wife and cheating, and ultimately it destroyed my marriage in the end. She took me back for about the last 6 years. We got divorced 2 years ago, but there was that mistrust that we tried to get over was just too much over those 6 years. I felt it, she knew it, but we pretended for so long, and then eventually we just kind of, after the Adderall, never cheated, did anything like that, but that connection I had before that with her and our intimacy and our respect and our trust was just destroyed. So,
how much Adderall were you taking?
What's that?
How much Adderall were you taking? How many milligrams were you taking?
Well, I mean, I started off with 20. That's the recommended dose for a guy my size, 20 milligrams of Adderall. And I found by the next year, midway through the season, I was like, this really isn't doing as much anymore. So the doctor comes in and is like, hey, so how you feeling on Adderall? Well, honestly, I feel like it's kind of wearing off. I don't feel like I'm getting the hit it used to. And he goes, well, you're a bigger guy. You want to try 40? And I'm like, oh, you're going to double it like that? He goes, sure, you can handle it. I'm like, okay. So I started doing 40. I was like, oh, there it is, right? And by the end of my addiction, or it was in 2011, towards the end of 2011, I was pushing probably 100 milligrams a day. And it wasn't even mine. I was just like, I couldn't even get that kind of prescription. They wouldn't give it out to me, but I was taking my 40 and then asking teammates midway through hey, you got any more Adderall? Like, just really addicted. Now I get the addiction side of people.
So what were some of the, if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the side effects? Because there are people listening to this, and I do hear a lot of people who do take it.
I take Adderall. I'm prescribed Adderall for the last maybe since 2012 or 2013. But I'm also really careful as to how I take it. I don't go 20 is what I take. That's it.
How are you sitting still right now?
because if I don't take it, that's when I am unable to not even just sit still. Like I'll be, it was prescribed to me for a reason, because I was really having a lot of troubles concentrating. I'm an editor and I couldn't read. I'd be reading the same passages and they weren't working. And my now wife would tell me that, you're jumping around, your sentences aren't even complete. And I didn't know it. So when I went to the doctor, I initially told them I didn't want to take it because I thought it was, that's what weak people do. They take medicine. But it got to the point where I would have done anything.
What are some of the side effects, though? Like why is it, and I'm sorry, I do not know enough about this area, obviously, but what are some of the side effects? Why is it so bad for you?
It's an amphetamine.
Well, I got to tell you, it's basically meth, right? And I gotta, your story with 20 milligrams, I gotta be honest. If I just took 20 milligrams, I feel like that's the best version of myself, but I can't stop at 20.
Right.
If I could just take 20, time release at 8 in the morning and keep it all the way till 3, 4, but I get around 3 or 4, it starts dying down and my brain's like more, I can't help it. I'll go pop another one. And before you know it, I'm 60 milligrams deep. I'm like, oh gosh, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
That's some of the side effects for me, right? So it turns me into, like, instead of having a drink or two, I'll drink a 12-pack just to go to sleep. And it Adderall turns me into this sexual deviant. Like I'm a walking boner walking around there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, man. It's just crazy. It's the most, like, and I've read where Adderall causes guys to have sexual dysfunction. I'm like, well, that's not my case.
That's not my case, right?
Not mine.
Right. So you pretty much cut back. I mean, you've cut back on even drinking. You and I talked about. You really pick your battles now. Like you enjoy. And you and I've had conversations, and you don't mind me talking about. But it's one of those things where you can go out and have it in moderation. You have your fun here and there, but you really are conscious now about your health, your fitness, and your wellness. Can you start talking about, like, when this made a change for you? Like, how did you kind of hit the reset button? What are specific things that you started prioritizing?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to do things for the right reasons. When I wanted to get off Adderall, the only time I really wanted to get off Adderall is I was trying to get my wife back. She left me, and I went into rehab just because she wanted me to get my wife and kids back. Because when I went to rehab, that's all I wanted was to get them back. I didn't want to do it for myself. So I think, when I got out of rehab, I relapsed again because I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. So whenever I decided to quit again, it was because I wanted it. And I think that's what you have to do in any walk of life if you want to get off anything. I really believe that you can get off anything you want cold turkey without going to rehab, anything, if you desperately want it. First of all, that was what I wanted. I desperately wanted it myself. And then I had to take steps, certain things I needed to do in my life to get myself straight. I got in line with God and my faith, first of all. I get up in the morning, I'd, read a passage in the Bible or two. I'd watch a motivational video, like a Tony Robbins thing or something like that. Get off my ass, get right out of the house, cup of coffee, and then get in the gym. I made that a priority. At the time I was probably 245 pounds, just kind of a lard ass, and felt lethargic, had no energy or motivation. And it didn't happen overnight. These steps I started taking with the gym daily, the first 2 months in the gym were a grind. It was just trying to find that motivation as my brain started rewiring. And even in the gym when I was lifting, instead of listening to music, I was listening to like this inspirational speech music with like Tony Robbins in the foreground talking shit to me, right? And it
works.
And I started rewiring my brain. And I think that's where it all starts, is right up here. And that's what Adderall does. It helps you in here without trying, right? But then the next morning you wake up, and if you don't have that Adderall, you're dead.
So what's a typical day like for you now?
Well, it's when you retire from baseball or any professional sport, you go through this transition of trying to figure out a lot of guys jump right back into to coaching, or they go into the media world where, I think when you coach or you're in the media world, you're away from your family as much as you were when you're a player. So with my 2 kids, I didn't want to do that. So it took me a while to really kind of catch what I wanted to do. And if I'm being honest with you, I still am trying to figure out what it is I really want to do. I've done the network marketing thing where, you go out and you're on the phone for all day long explaining shit to people. Didn't want to do that, right? I lasted a year in that. I did some volunteer coaching. I could hop in the minor leagues right now and start coaching, but I'd be away from my kids. Don't want to do that. And I did a sports talk radio show for San Francisco, 95.7 The Game, for about 6 months. I was up at 4 a.m. doing a 6 to 10 show every day, and I found that line of work very negative in nature. As you guys know, any kind of sports talk is all bullshit. I don't care how good the guy does. They always want the worst in people, and that wasn't good for where I was in my life. And so now I'm just I was doing some podcasting for a while. We've kind of taken a break on it for the last month because I feel I've been doing it for 6 months, and I don't know how you guys are doing on your podcast, but I feel like my first show I was getting about 1,000 downloads. I don't know if that's any good or not. And I did a Bruce Bochy episode 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was from the first time to Bruce Bochy for 6 months. I had 800 downloads. So it wasn't even, we weren't even taking any steps.
Right.
I think to myself, I'm spending $1,000 a week or every 2 weeks to fly to Arizona, hotel stay, editing, all this stuff for this deal. And I'm getting 800 people listen to it.
Yeah,
it wasn't making sense to me. So
I get it.
Yeah, I took a step back, and I got to find some better way to market it. I'm terrible at social media.
Actually, no, you're not. Everybody, everybody laughs. Your Twitter. You're really good at agitating people, but it's like that's somebody. Another one of our editors was like, "Dude, his Twitter is awesome. Like, have you seen it?" And I hadn't, and I went on there, and yeah, I get it. It's so you're not bad at social.
I gotta get on Twitter. I gotta get on Twitter a little bit more. It's the one number.
No, you don't.
I spent enough time.
Stay positive, my friend. If you get on Twitter, it just drags you right in the dirt, man.
Did you feel like you were around a lot of negative people in the major leagues, or did you feel like you were pretty much with a good team?
Everybody's in the major leagues. You're not in the major leagues unless you're a positive thinking individual. I don't care what you are. If you're successful anywhere in life, you don't see anybody that's millionaires that's successful and they're just dragging around moping. They may be unhappy in their home life, or what have you, but when they're making that kind of money, they're crushing it, positively in their career. But I found that world kind of interesting. I did the Tony Robbins UPW here in Los Angeles about a year ago, and that kind of energy, 4 days, you're just jumping up and down. I've never done this in my life where I'm completely sober. Music's going, and everybody around me, 10,000 people are jumping up and down. I'm doing the same. At first, I'm like faking. I'm like, this is fucking weird, man.
If you were to turn to me when I was in college and tell me I would have had a 13-year career, 2 World Series championships, hit a career average of about 278 with, I think, about 1,699 hits, I would have been like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, and looking at some of your strongest years, and there was a lot of them. They were Hall of Fame numbers that you put up. I mean, you gotta feel really good about that. I mean, would you mind starting? And this is the greatest story, and I think I slightly remember it, but I don't want to say it's a great story, but it really was an inspiring story about the batting cage and the 200 balls that you hit every day. And this is just something I want people, because we're talking about visualization, we're talking about Tony, we're talking about where you put your mind for those years in the batting cage. Can you repeat that a little bit right now?
So, when I was 6 years old, my father was tragically murdered in Abilene, Texas. And my mom at the time, she was working as a Winn-Dixie meat market manager. And I had a sister at the time who was 4 years old, so she was raising the both of us, a single mother. And over the next year, I really took a liking to baseball. I just started watching the Texas Rangers on my grandma's TV growing up in Arlington, Texas. And my grandmother was a diehard Texas Rangers fan, and her favorite player was Jeff Houston, shortstop for the Rangers. And my mom one day started realizing, hey, I was really enjoying baseball, and she surprised us, me and my sister, after work one day with 2 tickets to a Rangers game. And I couldn't be more stoked, man. We went to the game, and at the time, as a 6-year-old kid, I was starting to paint like these logos of each Major League Baseball team on these little small thin canvases, and I happened to have my Texas Rangers ones that was already completed. So I took a Sharpie or like a pen or whatever it was. I don't think it had Sharpies at the time, but some black marker. Took it to the dugout right next to batting practice for the Rangers game. And I'm holding up that canvas as a 6-year-old kid. And wouldn't you know it, Jeff Houston was the first guy in batting practice who came walking over to me and said, "Hey, son, you make that yourself?" I'm like, "I sure did." And I told him, "You're my grandmother's favorite player." And he was like smiling and blushing. And he signs my canvas, and he yelled at every guy that was sitting there taking batting practice. I think I got 12 more guys came over there and signed my canvas. So I left there with 13 different autographs from Texas Rangers guys on that canvas. And it was in that moment that I realized like baseball became my father. I just became obsessed with it from that moment on, seeing these big, strong men. I didn't have a father figure growing up. So baseball players became my father figure. And I remember getting in that car after that game. I had no idea who won the game that night. But I remember asking my mom in the back seat, I said, "Mom, if you buy me a batting cage and a pitching machine, one day I'm going to make it the big leagues. I'll buy you a house and a car." And, as a single mom, a Winn-Dixie salary, that's a tough stretch, right? And, so a couple of years go by and, I'm 9 years old now, and she sees I'm loving baseball, right? I'm still playing Little League, the whole 9 yards. And Christmas time, when I was 9 years old, I'm opening presents with my sister, my mom, my grandpa and grandma, and everybody's got a present open. There's one left. I haven't opened one yet. My sister opens. I start crying. I have no presents. I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, shit, Santa Claus thinks I'm a bad kid," right? And my grandpa's kind of a tough-ass redneck Texan boy, and he picks me up. "Oh, quit your bitching, son." He blindfolded me, walked me outside, and popped open my handkerchief I had on. There it was, that pitching machine that was constructed by himself and maybe a couple other guys of his buddies, and a pitching machine. And I told my mom, and right then I said, "Mom, I'm going to hit 200 balls a day to the day I graduate high school. And one day I'm going to buy you that house and car. I promise you." And no shit, guys, every day I'd hit 200 balls all the way up till high school. And in the meantime, doing that, not only was I hitting, I was picturing myself every ball I was hitting a game-winning home run down the right field line in Arlington Stadium during the World Series. And so fast forward to 2010, I'm with the Giants, and we're playing the Texas Rangers in Arlington Stadium, Game 3. And Andres Torres leads off the top of the third with a double. It's a 0-0 game. The top of the third, 1 out. I come up, and just the hairs on the back of my neck started standing up. I dug in, and like something cool was about to happen. I had no idea what it was. I just something was different that at bat. And I told myself, I'm swinging first pitch no matter what. This is bat. Tommy Hunter threw me an 89-mile-an-hour cutter middle in. I hit it right down the right field line, just like I envisioned all those times as a kid. And we ended up winning the game, I think, 2-0. It was a game-winning home run in the World Series. And it was one of those things where, you look back at it, and my mind had been there so many damn times that it made it happen in real life. Now, it took 20 freaking years to get to that moment. I think a lot of people give up on their dreams and thinking it's not happening. They're thinking positively. But it took me 20 years to get to that moment, and my mind had just known what to do at that moment. But I'll go back and say, when I did sign my first big contract with the Rays in 2003, and I remember when I got the first deal, my first order of business was to take care of my mom. And so one morning I said, "Hey, Mom, it's going to be a Sun and Mom day. I want you to get ready. I'm going to take you to breakfast. Just going to have a great day." This is right after I signed my deal. So I go pick her up. I drive her to breakfast, and after breakfast, we go right to the Dodge Ram dealership. As soon as we pull into the parking lot, she knew. She started crying, and she picked out she's a redneck woman. She bought herself a truck, and I signed the papers there. She's bawling, the whole deal. Gets in her truck, and I said, "All right, Mom, follow me. We got one more place I want to take you." Now, about a month or prior to this, I'd already been trying to look for a little place on the beach in St. Petersburg, Florida, and found a little 2-story beach bungalow for her, and bought it, and just waited for the right time once it was closed and everything, to have it all set up. So she follows me all the way to the beach. I'm driving to this new little pad. As I'm pulling in the driveway, she almost rear ends me in the back because I just see her just bawling already. The lady was standing by the for sale sign, the real estate agent. We get out of the car. She can barely even stand. She's so emotional. And so we're sitting there by the for sale sign. The lady says, "Congratulations, here's your new home," hands her the keys. I'm crying. My mom's crying. The freaking real estate lady's crying, right?
Yeah, I'm already losing it right now.
Yeah, it was just a really cool thing to be able to see a dream so much that you can not only make your dream come true, but keep a promise to somebody else. And that was a lot of why I was doing what I did in the batting cage, to keep that dedication because of a promise I made to my mom. I mean, I think a lot of times you have to have a why of why you're doing things and why you're trying to accomplish what you want to accomplish, because we'll give up on ourselves when the going gets tough, right? A lot of us will. But you have to have a more compelling reason, I think, whether it's your kids or somebody you made a promise to, like my mom. And you got to have some stronger why than just yourself. And my mom was that why.
Do you think you're making the big leagues if your grandfather and mom doesn't surprise you with that batting cage?
No shot in hell. No
it's amazing, right? And one amazing act from your grandfather and his friends to put that thing together legitimately gave you a drive and focus for the next however many years of your life. Yeah. And just like me, I mean, listen, I got emotional hearing that story. I continue to love to hear that story. And we watched, I mean, I've seen that home run I don't know how many times, but I do remember when you hit it, the ball actually disappeared into the black. I don't even think you're able to see that land. That's how far you hit that ball. So I don't care what stadium that's in. I don't care what park, Yellowstone Park, wherever it is, that ball's leaving. So it's a bomb. So, I mean, it's just such a good story, man, honestly. Got anything more to add besides me being like a teary mess right now?
No, that's I don't, man.
The 20 milligrams of Adderall has got to make you
look honestly, that just was a deep story, man. Like I was kind of lost in it, to be honest with you. Like that's not what I expected to hear. That's not. I think Don left out some of the details, so it really is just a heavy story. Like I didn't know that about your dad. That's another thing. So I'm still just catching up on all that. That's a lot of shit to get through, and it's good that you had that support. As much as you said that your grandpa could be a hard ass, it's really cool that he turned around and gave you an outlet to really something to focus on too. That's stuck with you even till now. I mean, you vividly recall that stuff.
Yeah, I think anything if you're successful in life, there's always somebody that's there to help you along. Nobody does it by themselves, right? And you never really realize the kind of lives you're impacting at the time you're doing it. Like right now, I can't even tell you. One day, I'm hoping to see, like when I'm 80 years old, there's several people, or even my kids, even whoever, maybe one person comes like, hey, what you did right there changed my life, and I'm here today because of what you did. And that's what it's all about.
I can't stand it when people say self-made, like suddenly someone who receives help, like devaluing them. I received a lot of help, ever since I was a kid, from the love and support of my mother when I was battling with a stuttering problem and a hearing problem, to which is why I got into fitness, coming home crying every day in the second grade and dealing with those insecurities and emotions is the reason why I went on the path of fitness and why I fell in love with sports and baseball. And looking back on it now, I would have said, oh God, I mean, thank God those events didn't change. Otherwise I wouldn't be where I was. I mean, fortunately, I didn't have to go through what you went through with your father. But, I do believe, Aubrey, I've had the privilege of being able to meet you and know you over the last year. And I know the first chapter of your life, it's a chapter. I know for a fact you're going to go on to great things, even greater things. You're incredibly charismatic. I almost hear like your story is such a good story. In a way, I almost feel like he needs to be going around telling people about this. I don't know, maybe the modern day Tony Robbins right now we have sitting in front of us, but it's pretty good stuff.
Is that something that you've thought about? Have you thought about going around and telling more people about your story and how they can?
I do it quite often to like smaller groups, schools, church groups, stuff like that to this day. But as far as the personal development industry, the public speaking industry, it's a tough sell to get into because there's so many people doing it. It's almost like the podcasting world. Everybody and their mother's doing it nowadays, right? I actually did a podcast with Ed Milet. He's over here in Laguna Beach, and he's really good friends with Tony Robbins. And when I told my story to him, he was like, holy crap. He said the same thing. You got to get out there and start doing that. I'm like, well, Tony, don't you? You got to start somewhere, right? And, I've been doing some small things, but, I think, just the right person has to hear it. It's these, I don't want to do it for the money. I really don't care. I just think you're right though, guys. It's a pretty cool story. It's the power of, there's so much to unpack in that story, from, not doing it yourself, people helping you and overcoming the odds and never giving up. There's a lot that my story can offer. And there's a lot of down times, a lot of tragedy, heartache, and tough times. But in the end, that's the stuff that builds character. Nobody gets to success by just breezing through it. Everybody's got some challenges.
No, you don't get a free pass. And yet I think that those peaks and valleys and the fact that, you're open about you're a professional athlete still going through things like anxiety and substance issues. That I think is really, helpful to a lot of people, a lot of kids specifically, because they're not, they're in a different position. They're still looking for ways out. I mean, so I just think it is really, really cool that you were that open about it.
I think a big problem is is social media, because everyone's posting the best, and nowadays, and I feel this about a lot of young kids who are kind of growing up, and they don't really understand the ups and downs. They'll look at you and they'll see the 2 World Series rings, and they'll see the 280 career batting average, and suddenly it's like, oh well, he never had to work. Or Zach's a chief editor of a major magazine, or Don's doing what he's doing in fitness, and I'm like, oh my God. Someone the other day turned to me and they said, God, you're a 20-year overnight success, and I started laughing because they know what I had to go through. And every day for 20 years with almost losing my business 5 times, and borrowing money, and running into specific, financial issues with my business, and all these things that I'm not afraid to talk about, because this is part of the story. My story's still going on, but you have to keep telling this story. It's an important story, and it's going to motivate a lot of people. And if they don't hear that story, they're not going to understand the word resilience, and they're not going to understand the words hard work and just persistence and all this important stuff that you hear that makes a superstar in their right mind, whether it's in the financial world, whether it's for a magazine, whether it's in fitness or Major League Baseball, whatever it is. But no one got there because it was easy.
Right, 1,000%. You're going to be successful. You got to put in the work.
I love it. So listen, Aubrey, we know, I mean, I can tell where they're going to find you. You find them on Google. Google Aubrey Huff. No, we don't need you to spell. Guys, I'm gonna close this one out for my man over here. Go Google Aubrey Huff, listen to his story, check out his Instagram page. One of the more inspiring guys I've been around. Really, really, really a pleasure to know you. I can't wait till you come to New York. We can go and have a couple beers and just kind of kick back.
Hopefully I'm in New York next time when you're in town.
Well, let's do it.
And read his book.
Yeah, read his book. And your book. Can you talk about that?
It's Baseball Junkie. It's on Amazon. I mean, it's not on Kindle or anything. So I didn't really write it to make a lot of sales. It's out there, but if you guys want to read it, it's pretty. It was very therapeutic for me to do.
Well, that's why I want to read it, because somebody that is okay with letting it all hang out and just being as honest as possible. Those are the books I want to read. I don't want to read the like you said, you're open about your story. I don't want to read the people that are trying to sanitize everything, because life's messy, man. Like, shit happens, and you get over it by learning how other people have done it before you, or you can find a way out that way. So that's why I'm super interested in checking that out. And your book too, Don, whenever you let me write it.
Whenever I let you write it. We should write one. You want to help me write a book?
Yeah.
I'm in.
Sure.
All right, Aubrey, listen, thanks for your time, man. And definitely next time you're in New York, man, dinner and drinks are on me, man. We got to go catch up.
You got it. All right, gentlemen, that was fun. Talk to you.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So that was it. That was episode 475. Aubrey Huff.
Way off.
Oh, sorry. So we at Don Saladino.
At Zraz, my man over here.
Reps at muscleandfitness.com is the email address if you want to send us questions and praise. Please do. I would love that. We would love that. And we would also continue to make suggestions and recommendations, because what we're doing right now is we're bringing people on because you want to hear them and we want to hear it. So just please keep recommending who you want to listen to, and we'll make it happen. And the topics you want, and we'll go after people. Yeah. Like, we will literally go after them. Zach will. I'm going to just watch. I'm not that tough. I'm just... Bye, guys. Thanks a lot. Now I'm depressed.